You also worked with the Backstreet Boys in the mid-90s. How did you first start working with them?
I got this videotape in the mail randomly of this group that wanted me to work with them. And it was 5 white boys in Orlando, kind of choreographing their own stuff, and was wondering would I come on and help them. I was like, they got a little something to them. Let me go check them out. And it was so wild because I would go to Orlando and work with them. And then they finally came out, but they hit big in Europe before America. And so it kind of allowed me to travel a lot in Europe and really get to see the world without having a lot to do, because they would be so busy during the day that we'd have only a couple hour rehearsals here and there. And we really had a great time traveling all over the place. And then they set up for the US, and we were able to kind of get better and better from all the traveling and success in Europe, that once we hit the US, they were so polished and so amazingly good for a guy group at the time that it just exploded here. And it was really an interesting and fun project to be on, because I had been working with hip hop for so long that working with pop was just a different type of game, because you had access to way more toys to play with, way more higher budgets to work with, and bigger scale tours to put together. So that's when I learned a lot about lighting and props that fly across the sky, and when your imagination can really run wild and go there. It was really cool.
Were you trying to blend hip hop and pop in the choreography, or what were you?
Yeah, hip hop is pop. Yeah. And so I always just did what I did. And so if you hired me, that's what you were going to get, you know? So eventually hip hop became the most popular dance out there. And so when I say hip hop is pop, that's what I mean. It's just popular and it's everywhere, and yeah. So we did some fun videos together. Joseph Kahn, and did Everybody, Backstreet's Back. That was really a fun one to do. We did a lot of theme stuff. We added props with the chairs. So we just had a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's the haunted house Halloween themed one, right? Mm-hmm. So there's moments when they're kind of each soloing and there's a group dance. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about working with them in those different capacities.
The boys, we always wanted to highlight their individual personality, because they were, when you deal with groups like that, every girl or fan has their own particular one that they like, and you want to give everybody equal shine. So it was always kind of, how do we highlight each one of them's personality and then bring them together as a group, as a whole, to be dynamic.
So during this time in the 90s and 2000s, you also worked with Matchbox 20, Santana, Natasha Bedingfield. So your work was sought after not just by hip hop artists, but well beyond hip hop as well.
Yeah.
What did it mean to you to see your work in demand by such a wide array of artists?
Yeah, it was something that I've always seen for myself and for hip hop dance. So it was exciting, because I kind of, in the very beginning, had experienced some people who were trained and who were in companies and stuff, at fundraisers, curious about me, oh, what do you do? Oh, you're a choreographer. Oh, what kind of dance do you do? Oh, hip hop. And they go, oh, and walk away. And so for me, it was really a mission to get hip hop dance to be considered a true art form of dance. So working with all these artists outside of hip hop was just another way to get my style seen.
Another way you did that was with your work on commercials. You did the Khaki Soul commercial for Gap in 1999.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, that's another one. Hype got called to do a Gap commercial. I had been auditioning for Gap like over the years and never had gotten it. And so when Hype got the video, he brought in all his people. And as we went through the casting and they understood like the people that I brought in and my energy and vibe, they immediately liked me. And on set, when one of the dancers didn't work out, they asked me, Fatima, would you go to wardrobe? Would you be interested in dancing? And I was just like, okay, if I must, if I must fill in, even though it was like a dream come true for me. And they said, well, we want you to go to the dressing room. We want you to dress yourself. We just love your individual style. So can you do that? I was like, okay. So I cut up a linen shirt and I made my head wrap out of the shirt and I put on my little khaki outfit. And they were really particular about people wearing their own personal jewelry, to the point that they wouldn't even like hire certain people if they just didn't like the style of jewelry, just didn't feel like it worked with the brand. So they asked me, Fatima, can you take off the big hoop earrings? So I take them off, but as I see my reflection of myself in the camera, I'm like, guys, I can't do the head wrap without the hoop earrings. They kind of just go together. And they're like, give her the hoop earrings. So I did the commercial and I opened it and I ended. And it was a wonderful experience, and it ended up being a years-long relationship that I had with Gap of doing so many. But it was a month later where I was in New York and I was coming back to LA on a really early morning flight. And so you have like that 5 a.m. pickup and it's still a little dark outside. And so we're driving to the airport. I'm in the back of the car service and we stop at a light and I look over and there's a Gap store. And in the store, there's a mannequin dressed exactly like me with the head wrap on and the hoop earrings. And that's a moment where I realized that I can affect culture and I can push culture forward in a whole different way, that I'm not just a choreographer, that I have more to offer. And then I started doing more and adding more of my ideas and cultivating creative directing and all those things.
And what was it about working with Gap that you were so interested in? You said you'd auditioned many times.
They just did the coolest commercials at the time, the coolest, they just had, it was just such a vibe to be in a Gap commercial. So I just wanted to tick that box. And then I ended up ticking it over and over and over. They kept putting me in more and more. And then before the pandemic, I actually did one with my son and he's dancing with me. I did one pregnant. That one didn't come out. I was just choreographing it, but the whole crew, we actually did it. It may be in one of my videos stuck in storage, but we had filmed the crew doing it and I'm pregnant with my belly, and then I do one where my son is in it dancing with me. It was so great.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
You made your theatrical debut in 2003 with the play Radiant Baby.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about, and what were some of your takeaways from working in theater?
Yeah, George C. Wolfe, who was head of the Public Theater at the time, directed so many incredible plays. He was up late one night and BET was on and he saw a music video and was like, whoever did that has to do this play. And so they called me in to meet him. And after doing my research of him Bringing the Funk, Bringing the Noise and Jelly's Last Jam and all these theatrical work, I knew that it was ooh, this is going to be, interesting. So we sit and talk and he was just like, oh, I have to get you out of LA. I have to get you cultured in New York, because I was so not a theater person. But he loved the rawness and newness of me. And so it was really funny because I was asked to do a Shakira tour or to do Radiant Baby. And the Shakira tour would have paid me 100%, 100 more times than Radiant Baby. But when I sat and talked to George, I felt the genius that I was around. And I wanted to it felt like going to school on scholarship. And I really was in that time of my life of where I wanted to really learn and grow and do more things. And so I went with Radiant Baby, and it was such an amazing experience. I'm so used to choreographing for the camera and directing, but I'm so used to being able to use the edit as my friend, being able to cut here and cut there, so that choreographing for the stage was so different for me. I had to use my brain in such a different way. It was quite challenging for me. But I figured it out. And I'm glad I did do it, because on the horizon was Dreamgirls. And Dreamgirls was the first thing I ever had to audition for as a choreographer. And so that was like, okay, you want me to audition? Interesting. And so they gave 3 choreographers the same song and said, present us a piece. And everyone sat down and watched it and was like, well, it's clear whose movie this is. And I got Dreamgirls.
What did you do for your audition?
We choreographed Step Into the Bad Side. Yeah. And because I had never seen the play, the other 2 choreographers did. They kind of did something very similar to the old one. Well, I had no reference to go off of. So I just did something completely fresh and new. And David Geffen and Bill Condon just loved it. But it was also that experience of working with George that allowed me to really step up to that and get that job.
Because a lot of the performances in Dreamgirls are them performing on stages, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also it was a lot of telling the story with the dance, and that's what working with George really taught me, is how does the dance push the story forward, and how does it elevate the story, And so then Bill Condon came also with his theatrical ideas coming off of Chicago, and everything was really I've really had some incredible directors that I've worked with along the way that really helped me shine as well and grow.
What do you think makes for a good director in that relationship between a director and a choreographer?
Again, trust, but also, a lot of directors are choreographers. They just don't have the vocabulary of dance in their body. So when you work with someone who really knows what they want and understands, you just then come and enhance all those ideas that they have and give them things too that maybe they hadn't thought about. That's what I love to do. I love to give them what they're feeling for the scene, but also I throw in a little bit about what about this to it. And they're like, oh, wow. Like you took it to a whole another level. And that's what I love to do.
I have a quote from Lawrence Mark, the producer on Dreamgirls, who said that you brought an amazing amalgam of styles to the choreography: gospel, jazz, blues, soul, and rock. You added beyond what they were even imagining.
Yeah.
Talk about bringing so many styles to the film.
I don't know. It's just kind of what I do, what I naturally do. That's why I don't like to prepare a lot in the room. I love to go in and just see what it feels like, see what comes through me. But it's the music that moves you as well. And so if you're following the flow of the music and you're not married to something that feels like it needs to be period, or it needs to work, for this dialogue, or it needs to, you let yourself be open and free to explore, things that may work and may not work. But I often find that a lot of times they do work. And a lot of times, like, you find some gems out of working in that way. Can I read you something that Rebecca Walker sent me?
Please.
So this is Alice Walker's daughter. And it was so amazing. I was floored. This is recently with Color Purple. Mm. And so when she had said, like, how did you do it? How did you piece all that together? And with Color Purple, I definitely felt like the ancestors were speaking through me. And so she says, yes to your, and then also Color Purple is such a movie where my mom came home and told me and my sisters, like, you have to see this movie. It was like the first movie that we all went to together in that way. That was like, my mom was so in awe of the film and wanted to share that with us. And so she wrote, yes to your mother, yes to Blitz, our director, but really, Fatima, yes to you. I was in awe of what you did. Every sequence is brilliant. The way you worked the vocabularies of the different time periods, seamlessly meshed African and modern and classical. I mean, Ailey and Martha and Trisha and Dunham and Fosse and beyond, and grounded it in hip hop and contemporary Black vernacular that you basically co-created and evolved over the last decades. My dream is for people to understand the depth and knowledge and technical and intelligent rigor you are bringing. But even if they don't see all the ingredients, I know they will love the cake. And then I went and saw the movie. Isn't that pretty amazing?
That's gorgeous.
So to come from like this little girl going to clubs, loving hip hop, and then able to like bring it to the world stage the way I have, it's really been like a dream come true. But definitely The Color Purple for me is, it's a masterpiece of like all the training that I've had along the way and all the little things that I've picked up along the way.
And that's coming out later this year?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll look forward to that.
Yes.
So going back in time again a little bit now, you did Radiant Baby. Was it around that time when you were in New York that you took some classes at the New York Film Academy?
Yeah, that's when I took classes there. I really wanted to, people kept trying to push me in front of the camera. Like I had a Coca-Cola commercial running then. I was doing Gap commercials, and I had even started like doing hosting with MTV on some TV shows and stuff. And people really were pushing me there, but I really loved being behind the camera. And so I wanted to go to film school because I didn't go to college. So I wanted to take some courses and see if this was something that I would love to do. And of course, as soon as I got into class, I was like, oh, that's what that means. And that's what that is. Like I was the one person in class that had been on so many sets and was like, that's the light meter. And that's why that takes so long. And that's what they're doing when they do that. It was just so like, wow, to be able to like really understand how a set is run and works was just, I loved it, and really ingrained in me, wanting to be behind the camera and creative and direct or creative director, all the things, but definitely to keep on using my creativity in a bigger way. And it really helped me as a choreographer to take these classes as well.
And then you started to direct music videos in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Was Hey Mama the first one that you directed?
No, I directed this reggae artist named Mr. Vegas. It's this song called Heads High. I directed that, and it was the girl that I made a deal with the girl I was living with, a friend of mine in Brooklyn. I was like, I'll decorate the room if I can stay here and go to school, and then she worked for the record label, and then she was like, oh, we have no money for this music video. And I was like, I'll direct it. And so that's my first music video. And then the crazy part about Hey Mama is will.i.am used to be one of the kids battling in the clubs. And so he was a little under me. I had already done Remember the Time by the time he met me in the club. But he would, you know, as we'd all be in our battling circles, he'd be like, I'm going to work with you one day. And I was like, yeah, all right. And so to be able to direct for him, and yeah, it was great. I love when full circle moments like that happen. It's like such a wonderful thing.
You also directed several videos for Meghan Trainor, including All About That Bass,
Yeah,
which kind of put her on the map.
Yeah.
So talk about that video.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. My mentor, Sylvia Rohn, who's now at Epic Records, she's often sent me songs, and I just felt like unless I was super passionate about it, I wasn't going to take it, because me and her have such a great relationship together, and I just didn't want to ever get in the way of that. When she sent me this song, it just struck a chord in me, and I just loved it so much. And it was like, okay, we don't have a lot of money, you know, and she's from Nantucket, and, you know, she's never done anything. She's really a songwriter, and she's never really done anything before. And when I met her, she was just so cool and fun, but she was right when she said she's never done anything. Like, she just did not know how to work the camera or understand any of that. So it was really starting from ground level. But I just based it in kind of like, I had this reference of pastels that I really liked, and I kind of ran with that pastel and colorful vibe. And then I added the floral element to it, along with the dance, along with taking a very cheeky song and making it like bringing out the humor in it, but still wrapping that humor in colorful kind of Candyland in a way. And it all kind of worked out. And it actually became like the first YouTube video to hit 1 billion watches. And we were really amazed when it happened and all came together, but it was a great thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, you also started to work more in episodic television. You did an episode of The Drew Carey Show in season 7 called Drew Gets Out of the Nut House.
Yeah, The Drew Carey Show was such a surprise, because I just felt like, wow, they're reaching out to me. Okay, let's try it. You know, that multi-camera thing was so different and new as well to me, but he was really a really nice guy and open to all the ideas. And, you know, I love when you're able to take a show like that has humor and props and fun wardrobe, and you can really use your imagination. You know, my sisters and I, we didn't have a lot when we were younger, and we would really use our imagination when we play together. We create these Barbie doll like mansions, but we would take like the top of a Downy and put the top of a Carpet Fresh on that and put water in it and lift it up, and that was our toilet for the bathroom. And like we used our minds in all these different ways that it's so much fun to get in the room and like just come up with all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was working in comedy is fun. And so I enjoyed that I enjoy whenever I get a call to do stuff like that. I've worked with Blackish and Grownish, and each time we get to play in such a way I never get to play with in music video.
With episodic television, who are you meeting with? Is it the showrunner and the director of that episode?
Yeah, most of the time it's the showrunner. Sometimes it's a director. Sometimes it's even like the producers and the writer. The entryway is always like I get plopped down into it depending on who's kind of taking that responsibility of that episode. Yeah.
And then how much time do you have for an episode to work out everything?
Oh, it's pretty quick in that world as well. And that world is really quick because sometimes I'm getting the actors when they are just in between scenes. So I may have to put together the whole thing and then they come in for an hour or two and then I give it to them and then they have to go back to work. So it really is a fast turnaround.
We wanted to talk about a few episodes of Blackish. Tell us about choreographing the Juneteenth episode. It was the season 4 premiere.
Yeah, that was really cool. Kenya Barris just had a great idea of creating and uplifting that holiday, which is now an official holiday, but something that Black people always celebrated. And so it was great to do something with them. I mean, that cast is so much fun. You know, Lawrence Fishburne can dance his butt off and is great. And Tracy and I have known each other for years. So really, when I go to work on Blackish, it's like working with family. And so to take us through kind of our ancestry, our where we are in America and why we celebrate this holiday and what it means to us and all that was just like a no-brainer to come together and create something fun.
And it was staged like a play. It's like a proscenium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and the comedy, you know, the ability to mix the comedic timing with the dance and work with people who are really good at that, you know, is always so much fun. Yeah, I wish I could write. I'm just not a writer, but I wish I had that skill. Yeah, that was a good time.
You also choreographed the season 5 episode, their 100th episode of Blackish, which was a tribute to Prince called Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That was fun. I mean, Prince was a really good friend of mine, and I worked on a lot of his music videos and some of his stage shows and stuff. So to recreate him with people who are basically like family was so much fun, you know. And again, being funny and, you know, pulling out dance when people didn't know or think they had dance in them. It's always like that when you're working with actors. They're just not quite sure how they're going to be able to do this or if they're going to be able to pull it off. But it was a good one. We had some fun time.
I had read that Prince once paid you quite the compliment.
Who told you that?
Something about Miles Davis comparison.
Yeah, I had brought over some dancers for him to see, and he was like, yeah, they're good, but they're not you. And I was like, oh, P. And he goes, you dance like Miles Davis plays the horn. And I was just like, floored. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk about a few TV movies that you choreographed as well in the mid-2000s. Lackawanna Blues, an HBO movie.
Lackawanna Blues with George Wolfe again. That was us working together again and collaborating. You know, some juke joint stuff. It was Mos Def playing. Caledonia. I love you. I can't remember his name right now, but I love that because I love working with George. He's such a genius, and I love how he just makes things feel like you're just in it, and it's just so natural, and like it doesn't necessarily feel like a choreographer has come in there and put it all together. It just feels like everybody's just having a good time. And I love that about that film. Yeah, getting to work with George. So awesome.
You also choreographed Their Eyes Were Watching God, which took place in the 1920s.
Yeah.
So how did that time period impact your work?
Yeah, it's you want to stay true to the time period, even though there's not a lot of information out there on how they dance. There's little stuff out there, the cakewalk, the little, things in that time, but you kind of have to use your imagination as well. And then push the envelope a little bit and see. But this was, it was a very specific scene with Hallie and Michael Ealy. And, just kind of with that, it was you wanted to honor what the writer wrote in the script and hope that, sometimes you want to be flashy and you want to have things that really take you out of the story and into this land of dance. And then sometimes you want it to just feel quite natural, like they just did it on their own without any help. And it doesn't take, people fall into the story a little more and they would never think a choreographer was on set helping put it all together. Yeah.
For time periods where there might be a lot of research, like Motown, where you could go look at performers in the 60s performing, will you go look at original performances 100%. For inspiration?
100%. For Dreamgirls, I went and looked at just Michael Peters' interviews. They had done some TV shows with Dreamgirls. But I really just wanted to get into Michael Peters' mind, what was he going through and feeling when he choreographed this, and what him and Michael Bennett were so close together. I really just wanted to learn and get to understand their relationship, because then that better just informs me of how to move forward as well. I'm really quite interested in the people who have come before me and who paved the way before me, and understanding their obstacles and struggles and what they've done to elevate the art. And so sometimes it's just really diving into that world and experiencing people. For instance, even with Color Purple, I took liberty to go, stepping in Black fraternities had to come from somewhere. So it came from slavery, and then before that, it came from Africa. So what were the different ways that it evolved to now we have stepping? And if you go back and then start to think about where that, the drumming in Africa and the African dance, into the stomping and the cakewalk, into certain things that slaves would do on their own when they had their own parties and were allowed to dance, what they would do, to then this very dynamic stepping that has come from fraternities. So, in that I give myself a little grace to take some moves and play around. And then, like I said, sometimes it's just the ancestors that speak through me in the room. Yeah.
Let's take a little time to talk about the craft of choreography. You talked a little bit about what you enjoyed earlier, your favorite parts of the job. How would you define the role of a choreographer?
The role of a choreographer is to bring movement to life, to bring music to a uplifting place that really, you can watch a choreographed dance and love the songs so much better, Dance helps just uplift anything it's around. And so I think, I don't know, choreography is just the ability to translate what you hear into a movement of excitement. Because it's so funny how you can take one piece and let 3 different people interpret it their own different way. And it's because of like, someone can be really quirky in their manner, and so they come at it in a quirky way. And someone can be really elegant in their manner, and they come across it in a very elegant way, you know? But it really just, it highlights everything it's around and like brings it to life.
Along those lines, how do you think choreography can impact storytelling?
Big time. I mean, it's shown over and over how it impacts storytelling, you know? When we're telling a story, say for instance, even Dreamgirls, like, you know, you're choreographing to something like Step Into the Bad Side, where they're, you know, singing about, you know, crossing over to this other place, and something about like the way you look at the choreography, the way you interpret the moves, the way you like add the emotion and the aggression, or the foot stomps or the hand props or the thing, like it moves you, and it makes for the story to be just elevated and evolved, you know? You can really kind of guide someone to a place, you know? It's funny, it's even in Color Purple, like when Suge shows up at the juke joint for the first time, it's like, ooh, you just never know what's about to happen, and it just keeps happening, and then it keeps happening, and it's like, I love the way it can move you emotionally, you know? I was really, after watching The Color Purple, I was really emotionally moved in a way I hadn't been. Yeah.
And then a bit sort of more of a technical question. When you're coming up with choreography and you're moving, what footwear are you wearing? Like, how are you dressed?
Sneakers. Yeah, but I wear a lot of street clothes, sweats, sneakers, jeans.
And then at some point, will you have your dancers in full costume and the shoes that they're gonna perform in? So
And sometimes they're in rehearsal wardrobe, but we ask for the shoes in advance of, so they can break them in. Yeah.
And how important is it to do like a final rehearsal in the space that they're actually going to be in as well?
Very much so. You have to. Yeah, unless you want to waste time on the day trying to figure out the staging. I mean, you're just in a box in rehearsal, but when you get on set, there's so many different variables and elements. There may be tables, chairs, a bar. There may be just an open stage, but there may be like, there's so many other things, props, levels, like there's so much that you have to rehearse in the space as well. Yeah, I used to rehearse with heels on. I just don't anymore, unless it's absolutely necessary to be in that. Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about differences for choreographing for stage and for camera. Is there one space where you feel freest, like working in film or music videos or stage?
I think concerts is where I feel the freest.
Why is that?
I really like concerts because you're able to control the emotions of people, and you're able to see it in real time. It's really beautiful to sit in a 80,000 venue and watch people scream for your choreography or for what they just saw. Like, watch people have fun and like turn to each other and laugh and sing and dance. Like, that to me it's so much joy that I get from putting together a stage show and watching how it affects everybody in the room collectively at the same time.
And then the way people experience concerts now with filming on their phone and whatnot, a lot of them are going to go home and try to recreate those dance moves too.
Yeah. I mean, a perfect example is like the Beyonce concert, her doing the mute. She has a song where she just says mute. And then in rehearsal, she put a stop in there. And so when we first did it, she would say, she would go mute, and then people would continue to sing the song, and then they'd be like, oh, and then the song kicks back in. But after a while, people got hold of the mute, and they said on mute, and then to watch an 80,000 stadium go quiet and then kick back in when the music, like that to me is like, what? You know, that's some serious power. Yeah.
And people were so upset if people didn't do it correctly.
Yeah. So wild. But that's what being in a live environment gives you. And that's why I like it the most.
So this is Beyonce's recent Renaissance World Tour, which you were director of choreography for.
Yeah.
What does that role entail?
Yeah, the role hadn't even existed before that. Me and her made it up. So because, you know, I direct music videos and I choreograph and I creative direct and stuff, it's kind of like there's so many different things that I bring to the table. And when you hire me, you're going to get it all. It's a mixed bag, and all my many talents will come with me. And so we were just trying to figure it out because she worked with so many choreographers. There was the old choreography, there was some of the new visuals that she hadn't put out, and she had worked with different choreographers, and then she had started recently working with my team, and we did the Oscars with her, and I did a commercial and all these things, and we knew each other, of course, from Dreamgirls, but even before that, I had worked with Destiny's Child. And so we were just trying to figure out what my title is, because she's the director of the show. Like really, that is the brainchild of her. It comes from her imagination. She needs someone to help execute it and put all the pieces together at the same time, like throwing ideas at her to see if something like that could work. And so it's like, we know that you're not just a choreographer, and we want to respect you there. So what about director of choreography? And we were just both like, that'll work. And I like it a lot. Because a lot of people think that choreographing is just making up dance moves. And it really, that's less than half of it, to be honest. It's really so much more that you have to be able to deal with, be able to understand what the director's needs are and wants, and be able to give them that, but also in the moment be able to adjust really quickly and have that ability to be malleable in those moments. You know, I think that's one of the reasons why I work so much, is because I can actually, in real time, in the moment, like come up with something that works for the camera, for the scene, make those changes and not be so rigid and stuck on what I feel like I created, and so it can't, be changed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I love that, director of choreography, and I'm going to run with it.
It sounds amazing. One of the most iconic moments from the tour started in Paris. Blue Ivy began performing part of the choreography, and her My Power solo, just people super connected with. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and some of the choreography that she's doing?
Yeah, well, she wanted to learn a song, and Black Parade, from being around all the rehearsals and stuff, Black Parade was the one that Blue actually was like, I want to learn that one. And it actually was a routine that a gentleman had done over the pandemic. He lives in LA, but was back home in North Carolina. And he choreographed the song and with his friends back home and recorded it and put it out on Instagram. And then she happened to see it, Beyonce. So as we were talking about the different pieces, she said, you know, I want to do something like in the vein of this. I really like it. And I was like, well, why don't we just find this kid and have him come in and show it? And so went to Instagram. He was following me. I DM'd him. It was like I was able to make the call all over again that John Singleton made to me about Michael. I was able to make this call to this gentleman to tell him that we'd like him to come in and choreograph for Beyonce. And it was just like so exciting for him to be able to do that. His name is escaping me right now, but I'm going to go look on my Instagram for him. And it was really great. And that was the song that Blue kind of gravitated to. And so My Power was the song right before it. And the team did. And it was just really, it was just such a moment because she had been wanting to like get in there. And it was just not the right timing quite yet at the very, very beginning because we needed to like see the show up and fix all the little tweaks. And she just was at rehearsal, learning her steps. And then when the timing was right, her mom said, okay, here we go. Let's try this. And it was great.
It's also just so beautiful to see Beyonce watching her do
Isn't it?
This mother-daughter connection.
Yeah, it really is beautiful.
Just this week, the trailer was released that there will be a film of the tour. In it, Beyonce said her goal with the tour was to create a place where everyone is free and no one is judged. Do you relate to that sentiment?
Yeah, totally. I really think she did. I'm in the process of helping edit that film right now. And I just said the audience is the third character in the film because everyone came in their outfits and everyone's families are dancing together. And so many different walks of life are there at that show. It's just like, it's amazing to see. And, you know, it's the power of her music and her creativity that makes it all happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a few more specials and television projects that you were involved in. You were the choreographer for We Are One, the Obama inaugural celebration of the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, they actually brought me on to executive produce that one as well. And that's when I started like jumping into the producer world because we just found that if I took over the whole project, I can bring in other choreographers and delegate the different pieces to someone, or my team would do some of it. But when you do a whole show like that, sometimes it's hard to like navigate the whole thing. But, and that's why director of choreography makes so much sense because, you know, there's certain things I can say, okay, we're gonna pay homage to this artist in the 20s and we wanna do the style of dance, and I bring somebody in who's versed in that style of dance, but also I help stage it and I help make sure that it is telling the story that we want to tell for the actual show. And so that one's a fun one, going through the different styles of dance was really good. And working with actors who did choreography and like working on the Usher piece, and he's a fantastic dancer. And yeah, just being able to, when I wear the producer or executive producer hat, I can just be able to collaborate on not just choreography, but just also like how are the dancers going to be dressed and keep it elegant? How is the content? What is that going to look like? What kind of props do we need, and where is that coming from? And you know, all the things to make it come together in a more cohesive way than if you hire separate people all the time. So I've just really stepped into that position lately, and I really love it.
And because you've worked so closely with artists as a choreographer, I imagine you bring a different perspective to producing.
100%. I bring such a different perspective as a producer, and it really, it just elevates to what I do, because like ultimately it's all in my head, right? Everyone's trusting that when we hire Fatima, that part of our world is taken care of and we don't have to worry so much about that. But when I'm able to and allowed to like really not just take what I'm choreographing, but also really like put together the staging of it, and where it's going to be staged, the wardrobe in it, speak to the artist and help the artist understand what the vision is, and then collect all the artist ideas from the beginning, not later on when I see them at rehearsal, but from the beginning. It allows just more room to create even better work. So it's good all around.
You returned to the White House in 2016 when you taught a masterclass with Debbie Allen, Judith Jamison, and Virginia Johnson. What was that experience like?
It was really great. Debbie is one of the reasons why I'm dancing, watching Fame growing up. And so it's always great. We're doing something together right now. And to be able to be the hip hop element to that. You know, they had Alvin Ailey's people there teaching ballet, and then Debbie did African dance, and then I brought in hip hop dance. So wonderful. Yeah.
Your dancers did a number from The Wiz Live, is that right?
No, not there. We just did, I think maybe I taught the kids something, but it was a bunch of young girls that we taught. None of my dancers came with me to that one.
So you got to teach like teenagers?
They were preteens. They were young. Yeah. They were cute. It was so fun.
Well, let's talk a little bit about The Wiz Live, which was an NBC special in 2015. How did you come on board for that project?
I had worked with Neil Marin and Craig Zayden. They watched me stage the Oscars with Pharrell, and I come in, and they were like, wow, we can't believe she mounted that so quickly and made that so great. Like, who is she? And so I also worked a lot with Kenny Leon, the director, and I love him. And so it was kind of a great family project to do. I loved The Wiz growing up. That movie was so awesome. And yeah, I mean, Craig and Neil are, you know, they rule that kind of television musical world. And so we just together had a good old time.
Were you influenced by the choreography in the movie?
I wouldn't say necessarily the choreography, but the theme of it, the funness of it, the exploring outside the box of it, you know? Like when we went to the Emerald City, they were all voguing and for mine. And so that was an idea that I brought to the table, like, you know, just trying to push the envelope and take other styles of dance and elevate them and give them a world platform, the same way Beyonce's done with voguing. And yeah, so yeah, it's so much fun with that one, because you're working on this like fantastical world of like costumes and poppies and you know characters. That's my favorite thing to get to do.
How does the singing live aspect impact choreography? Like, will you hold back on really intense choreography knowing that someone has like breath work to do?
100%. You you have to find those moments where it is, where an actor can take their time to breathe and find those moments where, or create the moments, like you create dance breaks for them where they don't have to sing and dance at the same time. You know, there's all kinds of little tricks that we do to make you think like they're doing more than they actually are. Yeah.
And there were some Cirque du Soleil performers in that as well. Did you choreograph for them, the aerials?
Yeah, it's just working with the people who know how to do it. You know, I know what I want. I know what feels right. I know. And then a lot of times it's like, okay, we have a set. Show me show me some of the tricks that you do. Okay, from there you go, can you do that, but instead do it like this and make your way through here? And, you know, it's ways around we all are speaking the same vocabulary language. We just have to, like, you know, they just have a different dialect, you know, and then I like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's interesting. Show me that. Oh, you know, you figure it out.
And then let's talk a little bit about, in the 2000s and 2010s, there was this proliferation of dance competition shows, Dancing with the Stars, So You Think You Can Dance, and then also programs like The Voice that had staged performances with a lot of dance. You were involved with several of these programs. How much time do you have to work with an artist on something like that? Is it more like the episodic pace?
Yeah, it's the episodic pace.
Yeah.
And it really depends. You know, some artists want to work longer than other artists want to rehearse more. You know, also, if you're on tour already and you're already in the mix of things, like it may need just a little tweaking to make that work. Or you're coming in fresh with nothing at all, you know, then you may get a little time. But people will be surprised. We don't get a lot of time to do what we do. Yeah. And
you actually performed on Dancing with the Stars in, I think, 2007.
Yeah, I think that was like, I'm not doing this ever again. That's when I hung up the dancing shoes. I was done. I was like, okay.
It had been like 6 years at that time since you had performed.
I was just tired. Done. Yeah.
Prefer to be behind the camera?
Prefer to be behind the camera.
And then starting in 2014, you were creative director for several performances on The Voice. Was it Pharrell that brought you in?
Yeah, so once Pharrell became a judge on The Voice, he brought me in to work with his team.
And what does a creative director do? What was that role?
Well, I was a segment producer for it. So for that, whoever Pharrell's, and then I did Pharrell and Gwen Stefani's as well. Whoever their contestants were, we would create all their performance looks, and then I'd create Pharrell's performance looks, and then some of the other artists that would come on to perform. So you basically creative direct it, where you pick out like the lighting, the staging, the wardrobe, the whole overall look of what that performance is going to be.
And then how long at that point had you been working with Pharrell? Because you guys have been working together for many years. Yeah,
for many years. I mean, we had known each other for such a long time. I choreographed so much music that he had produced. You know, we've known each other from being around. But it was when we connected back again with the music video Happy, which came about like sort of out of the blue. It's, you know, they're like, we have a song for the Despicable Me soundtrack, and we had these French directors who came up with this great idea, but it's very ambitious, and it's just quite a lot of dance, and, you know, we need you to help us out. And we just had so much fun doing that music video, and the song just had this infectious, like, hitting the chakras in your body, and just made you happy. And so we just had fun, and we just made up characters, each set up, and he wore all my hats, and and we were just silly and had a great time.
It's a really joyful video.
Yeah.
You also worked with him on several performances on award show. He performed Happy on the Grammys and at the Oscars.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about helping to stage those performances?
Yep. Let's see. Happy for the Grammys. We had just done the song so much. And there was so much going on in the news at the time with the Trayvon Martin killing, and just it was very hard to be happy at times. And so he really wanted to do something that kind of questioned, are we happy, in a way, and kind of like we just wrapped it in where everybody felt, and that's why we had the hoodies, and Hans Zimmer came in and did kind of a different kind of twist on it, and so yeah, we wanted it to feel different than all the other happies that was out there.
Yeah.
And then the Oscars was so happy. I was so happy for him to get nominated and everything. It's always fun when, the first time I met Pharrell was at a farmer's market with my son in my belly, and it's just so good to see your friends really be so successful. They're so talented, and for the world to really get to see them and experience them is so great. So the Oscars was fun. It was standing in the wings with him while he, right before he goes on. It's just so awesome.
And that one, I think he went into the audience and was going around. People would get up and dance with him. A lot of energy.
Yeah, it was great. We sent pre-video in advance to all the actors who were participating so that they would know what was going to happen so they can join in and have fun with us.
So great.
Yeah.